guys, it's Taylor and welcome back to the podcast. In today's video, I'm going to be going over the story time of when I met the Kardashians hairstylist by accidentally and my experience at the DMV coming from the South. Two interesting topics, so here we go. Starting with the first topic, I'm going to be talking over running into the Kardashians hairdresser. How exactly we got here we go. I normally get my hair done in Arkansas because I really like the lady that does my hair, but I wasn't about to buy a plane ticket just to go get my hair done. Also, side note, you are being held up right now with packing tape, and that's not normally how I do it, so I do apologize for the bumpy ride that is ahead of us today. My apologies. So I went to go search on the internet hairdressers that do microbeaded extensions. The top 3 people that came out, and I called them and I wanted to make a consultation. The only one that got back to me immediately was Violet's Hair. Or Hair by Violet, sorry if I'm slaughtering your name. Apologies, I don't think you're watching the video, but you know, it's nice to correct myself, right? The day of the consultation, I received a text message that morning at 6 a.m. My appointment was for 9. It said, hey, is there any way we can reschedule for this date and this time? And I said, yeah, sure, perfect, it works for me. I actually scheduled off for that following Monday or something like that for an appointment. So I specifically asked off for a day just where I could get my hair done, which is partly why it upset me even more, the fact that it happened, because I took a day off of work just for this. Okay, so the day of the consultation, I'm immediately greeted with Fiji water. It's always nice, it's bougie water, right? Super nice. She starts pulling out massive and loads of hair, just trying to figure out like a bundle to make for me. So I tell her what I normally get and how many pieces I get, and then I start to ask for prices. I said, so how much do you normally charge to put in the hair? And she goes, oh, I'll charge around $1,500 for my services. I look at her inside, I'm internally dying, guys. I'm internally dead. Like, I am like, there's no way an HE double hockey stick that I would ever pay that much for someone to put in my hair. And at this point in the conversation, I'm thinking, okay, it's California. Maybe they just charge excessive amounts for services because it's California. The population's high, the cost of living's high. That's kind of the thought process I'm having at this moment in time. So the next question I proceed to say, as I'm nodding my head, like, okay, perfect. I'm negotiating here. She's physically seeing me be like, okay, perfect. That totally makes sense to me. But inside I'm saying, no way in HE double hockey stick this is happening. And I said, okay, so how much are we talking for packs of hair? And she goes, well, I would charge you for the length and how many you're wanting, $4,000. I look at her, I cannot contain myself like I could in the previous question. I said, oh my God, like, are you kidding me? And she looks at me and she goes, yeah. She goes, you have to realize the hair that I'm putting in your head is virgin Russian hair. Okay, guys, let me be honest here. I'm not saying the hair that I normally put in my head is fake, but it's also not virgin Russian hair. But at the same time, I've never had someone tell me the hair costs $4,000. You heard that right. $4,000. We're not talking like 1,000. We're not talking like a few hundred. We're not talking about 2,000. We're talking about $4,000. Like, I'm talking like basically 2 months of rent or more. Just for hair. This is not even for her to put it in. This is not to style it. This is not to cut it. It's $4,000. You know what I mean? So the next part of the conversation, I essentially am just asking, is there any way that you could install someone else's hair? Like, I could buy the hair and you could put it in for your normal price. And she looks at me and she goes, absolutely not. She says, I do not agree with the type of hair you would put in your hair. I don't do plastic hair. You have to realize that, you know, my hair is good quality hair, and that's what I agree with. That's what I do. A way to contact you further if I'm interested. And she goes, yeah, you can just reach back out, give me a phone call, give me a text, you know, whatever. Moral of the story, I said, well, thank you so much for your time. Have a good day. She never was once rude to me. She never once shunned me for like kind of looking at her like she was crazy when she told me the price. But I guess it probably would have been nice to know that she did celebrities' hair. It never once was mentioned in the conversation that she had celebrity clientele. But then I started to do my research further. So whenever I found her website, it wasn't really super glamorized about how she did celebrities' hair. But on her Instagram, on the other hand, she had celebrities tagged, she had them mentioned. Moral of the story, the more I scrolled, the more I found out that this lady actually does the Kardashians' hair. Like, she does the hair extensions for the Kardashians. But the other part I should probably mention in the conversation is when she was talking about bundles, she said that she had to color the hair and she had a private colorist. And the interesting thing about that conversation is, in a real world, if you got your hair done in Arkansas, if you got it done in a different state, essentially it would all be through one person. One person puts it in, one person colors it, one person styles it. And that's a good piece of information I needed to know for later down the line, because, for example, I went and got my hair done today and I had to pay different people to do different services on my hair. So I guess the thing about California that you should know is the population is higher and you can really have a niche, and you can do just coloring hair, you can be just an extensionist, you can be just a person that cuts hair. And I had no previous idea that that was actually a thing. So just a heads up for you kids, if you come to California, you're paying like 3 different people to do your hair, at least if you're a female. But yeah, after my research, it was very apparent that the reason why it was costing so much and she was wanting so much is because she is the Kardashians hairstylist. So that's cool. I mean, how cool would it be to go around and tell people, yeah, Kim Kardashian's hairdresser did my hair? You know, it would be pretty cool. But on the flip side, there's no way I would ever pay that much money for hair unless, I just had money to waste. Like, so much money, actually, I didn't know what to do with it. Like, people, when they have so much money, they normally become drug addicts, or they find something, like a new outlet to spend all their money on. And I think that would probably be my outlet if I had so much money to throw around. I probably would spend $4,000 on hair. But who knows if it's even good hair, Because the funny thing about it is, with my hairdresser today, I actually kind of told him about the story briefly, and he said, yeah, the funny thing about it is I've actually had some of the same clientele that's came to me after getting their hair done with those type of people, and they say the hair's not even that good quality. And I look at him and I'm like, okay, I don't even know what the hype's about then. What's your thoughts on it? Would you pay $4,000 for hair? Let me know in the comment box down below. I would like to negotiate. I would like to know your opinions. Because maybe I'm crazy. Maybe $4,000 is a general price you're supposed to pay for hair. I'm totally joking. It's not. And please do not pay $4,000 for hair unless you can eventually afford it. But for me, that's like 2 brand bills. And I'm not spending 2 brand bills on hair that I can only use twice. So, no thank you. Next. Ariana Grande said it first. So the second story I'm going to be talking about now is my experience at the DMV. Why is this person honking? I'm from the South. I have an Arkansas driving license, at least for right now. When I went to Michigan, I was there for college, so I didn't really see it as a massive need to change my driver's license unless I was going to permanently stay there for quite a while. And that wasn't really the plan. It was only 4 years. I wasn't driving a ton. I had an apartment that was really close to my college. It all worked out for me, moral of the story. It fucked me over on my taxes, but at the time when I was in college, my parents helped me with taxes. But now that I'm out of college, it's kind of almost like a necessary thing for me to do my taxes, because it's kind of a burden for my family to do them for me. Because realistically, I could just pay someone to do it, and why am I gonna let my parents do it and then not pay them for it? And it's just like a whole shebang, okay? So I came here, and I wasn't really infatuated with the idea of getting a California driver's license, and I wasn't infatuated with the idea of getting a California license plate until one of my coworkers found me, sought me out, and was like, hey, I've seen you've been parking here for a while and you have an Arkansas plate. Like, are you actually from here? Are you planning on going back? And I was like, yeah, I'm from around here now. I just moved here. And he's like, well, I just wanted to let you know, the longer you go without changing your license plate, the more money they tack on when you actually go to get them. And I was like, okay, all right. I didn't really understand what he was saying, but then I started to do my research, and actually it was very true that whenever you get your license plate changed over, it asks you how long have you been driving your car in California. It kind of asks you questions like, when did you purchase the car? It kind of asks questions like, how long have you been a resident in California, or something on those terms on the piece of paper. So it's actually super important that you get your license changed almost immediately you're here, because they tack on, I think, like $20 like every month that you go without getting a license plate change. They'll tack on money. Like, say if you've been here since January, and then you're here in March, they're gonna pay you January, February, and March $20 a piece on top of the fee that it takes to get the license plate tag, if that makes sense. So I went to the DMV today. I thought it was gonna be like a normal process, right? I'm trying to get a new license. I already have a real ID, so I already paid like out my ass for a real ID where I could travel with it. So I was expecting just to get it transferred over, just to print out a new card. It'd be the end of the day. No, not in California. I don't know if you're from around California, but this might be helpful information. If you're planning on going to California, stay away from getting a license. JK, you actually do need a license, so ignore me. But really, that's my opinion on it. It is a process. It is a long process. It is not just a simple, hey, this is my information, this is my date of birth, I am a female, I am a donor, I am not a donor, I am a voter, I am not a voter, print out my card, here's my picture. No. It's a process. So I go to the DMV. I stand in a line of 10 people at the door just to talk to a guy, for the guy to tell me, yeah, you gotta take a written test. I look at him and I'm like, I already have a license. And I thought he like wasn't understanding me, and maybe that's me being ignorant just by like judging him by the way he looks, thinking that like he didn't understand that I just needed a new license. He really knew his shit, and he was telling me, yeah, you gotta take a written test. You can't get in that line over there. You have to get in this line. So I didn't really understand him, and I asked the person that was behind me if what he was saying was like accurate or true, and that's my ignorance. I shouldn't have done that. I should have just been like, okay, kind of listen to what he was saying, but he wasn't really giving me directions. He was just giving me a heads up at the door that it wasn't going to be a simple, take your photo, give them your information, here's your card, which I appreciate that now looking back on it. So the person behind me said, yeah, you'll have to go to a certain area. So I got directed to an area after standing in a line of 10 people just to get told that I needed to go to this other area. So then I go to this other area and I stand in another line of 10 people, and I'm waiting to go to a computer system. And then it gives me a confirmation code. So then I have to write the confirmation code on a piece of paper that was provided to me while standing in the 10-person line to then hand to a lady behind the desk. Then I have to stand in another line like, okay, whatever. So I go back to the front with another number that the lady gave me, and I gave it back to the front desk man, and the front desk man then directed me to another place to sit down and wait for another 15 minutes to then talk to someone else. So I sat down, I waited, I eventually got to a teller, and I told the teller what my intentions were. I was like, I want a real ID, I just moved here, I want a California one, I have an Arkansas one. And she goes, okay, well, we only have 10 more minutes for you to take the written exam, and I don't think that's the best idea, because by the time you get over there and you get your photo taken, you're not going to have enough time. I said, okay, no worries, I can come back. What do you need from me? And she asked for like passport, 2 documents, like showing that that's my address. I only had 1 at the time. I didn't know I needed 2. I thought like my passport canceled out that from my passport and my birth certificate, but it doesn't. You still need 2 documentations saying, like a piece of mail saying your address on it, I guess. And she says, okay, well, I think you should come back next time with 2 documents, and then you'll be able to take your test. But I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to charge you the $50 for the real ID. I'll basically give you the stamp of approval. I'll put you in the line to get your photo taken, and then we'll see you tomorrow, or we'll see you in the next week, and we can schedule your written exam. I'm like, okay, perfect. So after I finished with the teller with the stamp of approval, I went and stood in another line of 10 people. I stood in that line and I got my photo taken, and they stapled my photo thing or whatever to the piece of paper with the confirmation number on it, and I was told to come back tomorrow. So, and then the next process is I'm gonna show up, I'm gonna show them all these stamps of approval and my driver's license photo, and then they're gonna let me take a written exam, and then I'll finally get the little plastic piece that says I'm official in California. So you're welcome. It's a long process to get your license, and the reason for that is actually the laws in California are different for license than they are in other states. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of things that can actually get your license revoked. You can get your license suspended, or you can get your license taken away for stupid things you do on the road, which I appreciate, but I also am a little worried at the same time. In topic 3, we're going to be talking about how the license plate lady told me I was fucking stupid. I thought it was a good idea. After going to the DMV, I was gonna try and get my license plate changed over at the same time. It would be an easy breezy, beautiful cover girl moment. It definitely was not. So I show up. Oh shit, it's red. It's green. Okay. I think I'm already probably got my license suspended at this point, let's be honest. Walked in, right? I let her know I needed a license plate, and she asked me if I already had one, and I said, yes, I have a license plate. It's from Arkansas. And she proceeds to hand me a form. She says, I need this filled out, I need a smog test, and I need this. So I thought when she said smog test, I didn't really know what the piece of paper was called. It has the little sticker on it that you like peel off and you stick on your license plate. That tells you when it expires and blah blah blah. And she proceeds to laugh at me. She proceeds to hysterically laugh at me, and she goes, no, a smog test. You know, you go to a mechanic and they give you a check for the smog. And I was like, oh, okay. And I still didn't really understand what they were talking about. I called my mom up after the fact, and I told him that, like, they handed me a form and I didn't know like the car details, blah blah blah. And then I felt really dumb when my mom was like, yeah, so the smog test is essentially checking to make sure like the exhaust and stuff that your car puts out is okay standards for California. But I had no idea what smog was. So I kind of want to know, if you're from a different state, like, is there such thing as a smog test? Is that something that's like normally required in order to get like a license plate? So that's going to be the end of today's podcast. If you want to tune back in next week, I'll tell you about the story where I went to a random guy's divorce party with a bunch of strangers. That sounds really funny, and I'm sure you'll enjoy the story. Because number one, you should never go out with strangers, but number two, don't tell people you went out with strangers, because then they're also going to think you're crazy. But number three, I'm probably crazy for actually going to a divorce party, but I'm also crazy for going out with a bunch of strangers that I only met in one day. So if you want to enjoy the story and you want to tune in next week, I will see you then, and I will talk all about how I got invited to a stranger's divorce party and how it went and what my experiences were. I'll leave my social medias on the screen where you can check me out on Instagram and other things like that when I'm not here on YouTube, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. Toodles.